If I asked you to describe this past year in 3 words, what would you say? For yourself. For me, I would describe my year as messy, enlightening, and vulnerable. That's how I would describe my year. And this question comes to me because of a new way I'm going about doing an annual review. I believe having a past year review, looking back on your past year, can be of benefit. It can provide us with valuable lessons, give us insight as well. It can just show us a snapshot of where we've been. And so, if this is something that piques your interest, then this episode is for you. I've done an annual review the past 3 years, but I was only ever doing it with answering one question. And while it was helpful, I do find that there was gaps of information that I wish now I was able to look back upon, but also things that probably would have been able to help me had I just asked some different questions. And so the system now is there to help that, fill in those gaps. And so I just want to give a brief overview of what this system entails. The first part is just a timeline. It's making a timeline of the year. The second part, I'm calling this section plus and minus. Now, this is actually an idea I got from Tim Ferriss because he also does a past year review, a PYR, he calls it. But for the moment, we're just going to call this plus and minus. The last section is answering a few questions. The main one being, what did I learn? And now that we know the 3 steps to this system, let's get into it. So part 1, timeline. Now, here it's not to be making things in chronological order. No. Here, all I'm doing is making a list. I'm asking myself, what happened? What happened this year? What happened to me this year? And I'm listing the things out, good or bad, the accomplishments that I had, the meaningful moments. That's what I'm marking down with this question. And to help me do that, actually, I use this 1 line a day journal. Oh, sorry. It's 1 line a day journal. And also it's also called like a 5-year memory book. And I'll be making another episode over that at some point, probably. Just to give a brief overview of it, though. All it is each day, you're just marking down on a few lines what happened, right? And in here for myself, I just write down, whether something good happened, something bad, maybe it was a moment that I enjoyed. That's all I'm putting in here. And so this book really does help me with answering this question. Now, you don't need this, right? This is just what I do. I think if you ask yourself the question, what happened to me this year, you'll have some things pop up. They'll come to mind. And all you need to do is write those down. Part 2, plus and minus. So we just went over the first part of the system, the timeline. We just made a list of all the things that happened, good or bad. Now for the second part. All it is, and as I said, I got this idea first from Tim Ferriss, so this isn't something I came up with. And he actually just released an article on his blog on his process for doing this. And I'll link that down below as well as the clip that I saw this from. And so thank you, Tim Ferriss. I believe this is going to be a real help. But all it is you're just going to get a sheet of paper. Make a line down the middle. Now you have these 2 columns. And you're just going to make a plus and a minus, right? And so he uses his yearly calendar and he looks at it week by week. And for myself, I actually have another journal that's going to probably help me with this process. I don't believe you need it. You don't need a calendar. You don't need a journal. But I do believe it would help. But all you're going to do is ask yourself the question, what were the places, the commitments, activities, experiences, things, and who are the people that brought me joy and were positive experiences? And of course, that you're just going to list all those things into that plus column. And he just, like I said, he just takes it week by week, looking back at all those things. Then you go through it again. And this time asking yourself, who were the people? What were the places, activities, commitments, experiences, things that produce negative feelings, that were draining. Austin Kleon in his book, Show Your Work, actually has something similar that he called the vampire test. And really what it was, the vampires were the things and the people that just sucked the life out of you. And so that is what you're looking for here with this minus column. You're just looking for the vampires in your life and you're putting it in that. And so now that you have these two columns, you now have a pretty good idea of what you need to be doing more of and what you need to be doing less of. But for Tim Ferriss, and which I agree, is he states that having this information does nothing. Now that you have an idea of what you want to be doing more of, he talks about now you have to take action. Take action towards making those things, being more intentional and putting them into your life, whether it's on a daily basis, weekly, a monthly, somewhere in the year. Of course, now you're not going to be able to do everything that you probably wrote down in your plus column. But find those key things that you can start adding to your life. Again, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, because life's too short not to enjoy it. And then with your minus list, your vampire list, Tim Ferriss actually stated that what it would be a good idea is for the first few weeks of your new year to keep that list handy. Put it somewhere where you can see it often, because now you have an understanding of what you need to be saying no to and what you need to be probably doing less of this year. Part 3, the questions. Now we've gone over part 1 and 2. 1 being making the timeline. 2 was plus and minus. Thank you to Tim Ferriss. And again, I'll link that down below. And part 3 is me just asking a few questions of myself. The main one being, what did I learn? And I ask this question because I believe it is the best way for us to learn and grow. John Dewey said, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. You take action towards something, you go through an experience, and then afterwards you reflect on it. And you ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I use to help me be better next time? I believe this question is vital for growth, whether it's in ourselves or in any endeavor that we have. And so that is why I ask, what did I learn? And so for you, what are those key takeaways, those big lessons? And this doesn't have to be related to just one area of your life. No, it could be in, what did you learn about your relationships, finances, your spiritual life, your health, your work life, and then just even, what did you learn about yourself? All those answers can lead us to making progress towards whatever we desire and towards whatever comes next. Then, just to finish it out, is just 2 other little questions. One being, if I had to describe my past year in 3 words, what would it be? And then the second part is, if I had to give this past year, my year, a title, what would I say? What would I call it? I think it's just a creative way to look at your year and a creative way to frame it. But that's it. That's the system. A couple things as well to add to that, wrapping up this episode. You might have noticed that I didn't go into how I set directions, or I didn't really talk about setting directions or goals for this coming year, and that was intentional. I wanted to keep it more so on the process of just reflecting on the past year. Also, one last thing. I am going to be starting a newsletter that will be coming out this Sunday on my birthday. And in there, I'm actually going to be answering a few more questions that go along with this yearly review that I liked. So if that's something that interests you, check that out. It's just going to be coming out weekly. In there, I'm just going to be sharing things with you guys that I enjoyed, that I came across during my week, with the hopes that it can be helpful to you, or, just make you laugh, make you smile. And I don't know, you get to know what's going on in my world a little more too, if you'd like, if that's something that piques your interest. And So yeah, check that out if you feel interested. I invite you to consider this idea of doing an annual review, looking back on your past year and seeing what you can take from it. Again, you can use this system that I'm going to be doing. You can just take a part of it or a couple parts of it and make it your own, or you can just do your own thing or not. Really, it's up to you. But I do believe it's beneficial. And I would believe that if you do it, you will find it helpful for yourself. But with that being said, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Uh, I wish you a good day and a wonderful 2026. And thank you.